Throughout the Middle Ages and Renaissance, female religious practice played a crucial role in social and religious life. In this film, we want to think about how our historical understanding of religious women connects to and informs our understanding of religious women today. Examining the practices of religious women throughout history can offer us an insight into the important and complex roles they played and continue to play in society. Although historians have previously thought of women's religious houses as being somewhat separate from daily life, convents were very much involved in their wider community.
One way of understanding these communities is through images of domestic space in late medieval texts written both for and by nuns. A number of these texts are written for audiences of enclosed nuns, nuns who were physically shut off from the outside world. Bridget of Sweden, for example, lived for many years as a wealthy married woman, the wife of a prominent Swedish aristocrat. After her husband's death, she became deeply engaged with her spirituality, recording over 700 visions and making pilgrimages to Rome and beyond. A number of her visions draw heavily on her material experience of her domestic life, as she imagines filling 3 houses with sufficient goods to sustain a plentiful spiritual marriage with Christ. Whether they lived in an enclosed space or travelled across Europe in search of devotional nourishment, medieval religious women drew upon the imagery of the home in order to shape their devotional practice. For those women who had left the material world behind, the home became a bridge between earthly life and religious enclosure.
In the late Middle Ages, the Florentine convent of Le Murate became a place of solitude after it was gifted to a woman named Apollonia, who had wanted to dedicate her life to quiet religious contemplation. Spending several years in this way, Apollonia was eventually joined by another young woman named Agata, whom she had met at a hermitage in Siena. According to the convent chronicle, Apollonia and Agata decided to sequester themselves completely from the world in order to be freer and more focused on penitential works. As the population of the convent increased, they soon found they needed a larger space to house the women, and so the convent moved to a location on the outskirts of the city.
We visited the nuns of Stanbrook Abbey to discuss the connections between their devotional practice and that of the medieval nuns we study today.
What do you read here, just to give you personally, and what structures, which books and which text structures your day?
Really, our whole day, our whole week, our whole year, our whole life is structured by the medieval text of the Rule of St. Benedict from the 6th century. And the day is punctuated by times for prayer, time for reading, as he says in chapter 48. And that reading would basically be scripture, and then commentaries on scripture.
Do you think of being in a state for contemplative reading as a different state of mind from being in a position where you're going to do some light reading?
The moment I pick up the book, my heart and my mind are directed towards growing closer to God and hearing what God is saying to me through the text. So it's a kind of abandoning any kind of critical approach or any analytical approach. It's more like gazing at a painting, really.
Can we talk about specifically your sort of interaction with medieval texts? Are there any in particular that have shaped your devotional practice?
I was hugely influenced by the English medieval mystics, so Hilton, The Cloud of Unknowing, Julian, of course, and I read them again and again and again when I was in the novitiate in particular, and that was largely through our I mean, they're encouraged, they're on the novitiate reading list, but they're very much, it's through our whole house tradition of copying and really engaging with the English mystics and that whole approach of the kind of the unknowing, the going into deeper and deeper into the silence and the unknowing, really.
Like we see today at Stanbrook Abbey, historical examples such as Bridget of Sweden and the convent of Les Murates reveal the importance of religious women who played an active role in their communities. Bridget's devotion took women out of the home, whilst the convent of Les Murates acted as a space for education for young girls as well as a safe haven for those in need. Both set a precedent for the level of integration women could achieve in societies that were often closed off to them, and it is from examples such as these that we can better understand the role of religious women in our own communities today.